I'll start talking when a viewer joins. I just completely blew it with that last stream. Damn it all. Well, sometimes you fuck up and don't turn on your microphone. And yeah, that sucks. So if anybody's watching this, let me know. I'm gonna spend a second to delete my previous stream because that was a complete failure. Okay, so we got one person watching. Yeah, so I just fucked up and did like a 20-minute stream with no sound. So we're starting over. If you're in the chat, drop a message in there so I know somebody's watching, and then I'll get started. I know you're there. I think you're there. If you are there, tell me you're there. Use your typing fingers. Started. All right. Well, fuck it. They left. Take two. All right. So, what are we here to do today? We're here to talk about the last 7 days in Hoj. I just did a 20-minute long presentation and my microphone is off. I'm pretty frustrated. So we're going to make this kind of quick and dirty. But first, now that it's squarely 11 o'clock p.m., I'll explain what happens here. So I have a script that runs on a laptop and that sits in the room with me, and it pulls Hoj holder data every hour from the 4 chains from Ethereum, BSC, XDAI, and Phantom. That data comes into a table that looks a little something like what I'm going to show you now. So here's the table that just got created mere seconds ago. Opening now. Okay, so this script runs, it pulls these holders, and it gives me a few different things. It gives me an address, a balance, a type, a title, and a chain. So type and title both come from the Ethereum chain. Only the API that I use for the other 3 chains doesn't provide this kind of stuff. But it's kind of cool because I can do things like this, where I go in and I filter on the title, and I can say where it is not holder, and I'll get a list of all the records that have some kind of title. So there's some kind of cool titles here sometimes. Sometimes I see like new exchanges. Sometimes I see weird things. So there's a few weird things in here that you might not recognize. From the top, this is the burn address. This is Whitebit, the exchange. This is Big One, the exchange. They use a exchange processing software called PDO. This is Bilaxy, another exchange. Gate.io, another exchange. Healthcare is a labeled holder, which is kind of interesting. So this is a person who, let's just look at it. I like to do this in the streams because it's kind of fucking weird. But if we look for this name here, check this out. This is called Innovative Bioresearch, and this person bought Hoj like 3 months ago. They don't even hold really that much. They hold 882,000 of them, but for some reason I don't know if they started a coin on the Ethereum chain or something, but for some reason they got the name Innovative Bioresearch. I guess they have a contract for a token. Anyways, they show up as a holder from the perspective of ETHPLOR and EtherScan, but they're given the name Healthcare. This is Vitalik, the guy that rugged Sheeb. He's not going to rug us because he only has 9 Hoj. This is HitBTC, another exchange that was sort of given a fraction of a Hoj. It's just kind of stuck in purgatory on their exchange. So that's the breakdown of that, and that's what this data looks like when it comes in. So we can kill that And what I do is I take the tables like this that happen every hour, and I make, just close that, and I make something like this. So what this shows is all of those spreadsheets every hour, and this is for the past week. So it starts on 20/21/7/8, so July 8th, which was last Thursday. Starts at 12 o'clock in the morning, so very beginning of the day. And this one ends at 9 o'clock today because I started this process at 9 o'clock before I did the previous stream that got completely fucked. But anyway, it's a week's worth of data. And you see a few things in here. You see a chain, again. You see a holder, a type. You're going to see a lot of records in here. You also see some voids. These voids are wallets that didn't exist at the beginning of the first hour of this time series. I'll zoom in a little bit more. But then at some point were populated. So in this case, this address bought 0.101 Hoj for some reason on NextEye, and they did that at 11 a.m. on 7/8. So I think a lot of these are probably bots that are, just doing these little weird purchases and stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. But ultimately, that's what we end up with is a table that contains every hour on the hour for the past week with the different chains broken out. So what I can do with this is use a series of different Excel formulas to come up with tables like the ones that you see here. So what I've done here is for every hour, I go in and I do a count if, and then I do greater than or equal to, and then some value. So what this does is it removes a thing that we call dust accounts. So dust accounts are accounts that have tried to sell all of their Hoj, but for slippage reasons or for other little reasons they don't. They have such a small amount that we functionally don't consider them to be people that are active in the project, right? So they're not people that are to be considered in these numbers. So these values remove those addresses. So I've got for each chain here, this first set of rows, for each chain at the 100,000 Hoj threshold. So this only includes people that have 100,000 Hoj or more in their accounts, and it does that for every hour. So you will do a time series, and we'll look at how each chain grew or shrunk among holders that had over 100,000 Hoj over time. In a second, we have a table or a chart that shows that. Similarly, we do the same thing here, where we take this is agnostic to chain, so this is just all of them that are over 10,000, 50,000, and 100,000. I've plotted those as well. So here, these are the same values transposed into a table that I can graph, and here are the graphs. Without further ado, here are the graphs, right? So, first graph I'll show is this one. So this graph is those three dust thresholds, so 10,000, 50,000, and 100,000. This is for all the chains. This is that value. So this is how many holders on the y-axis had over, greater than or equal to each of these sums in each different color here for all the chains. And you can see that that value grew. It dropped dramatically, you could say, and then grew again a little bit to finish off the week. So diving into this, we can look at each different breakpoint here. So 10,000, 50, and 100,000. So we'll start down here. So if we consider dust to be 10,000, then you can see, I wish I could shrink this a little bit. Can I? I don't think so. Wait. Nope. Okay, can't shrink that. But let's see. Can I scroll up just a little bit? Fuck, can't. So this is called LibreOffice, and it really sucks. Okay, but it's free. So we can see over the week, so starting again at 12/8/2021 at 12 a.m., ending at 9 o'clock today, the count of holders with over 100,000 grew. It grew not super dramatically. This week was actually, even through all the turmoil and the crazy shit that happened this week, and you can see that turmoil expressed in holder count. I think you can probably imagine what happened here. We had a huge crazy drop, what that might correspond to. Some crazy news that came out sort of earlier this week. But yeah, we can see the thing grew, freaked out, and dropped, and then it kind of grew again, and then stabilized here at a higher value than it started at. So if we consider the threshold to be 10,000, that's what happened. And in a second, we'll look at these values. So I want you to notice that this is not a huge change. This is 49,600 and what, like 60 here, and then 49,600 and maybe 80. So this represents maybe 20, a 20 holder difference from the start to the end here. All right, so moving down the chain, we'll look at 50,000. You can see that's where we start to see a decline in holders. So we did have an overall decline, depending on how you look at it. If we just look at the raw numbers, we definitely have an increase. But the raw numbers don't tell us everything we need to know. So we want to know, expressed in terms that we can reasonably say are people that are active in the project still. We can see that we had an overall decline. So if we set that breakpoint at 50,000, we see a decline. Now again, this is a decline of maybe 20 people. Looks like about 20 people. So still nothing huge. This wasn't some crazy purge, even though I named the stream that to get people to watch it. But this is just a slight little hiccup in response to some pretty crazy things that happened this week. So I think, all things considered, this is not that bad of a deal, what we're looking at here. Okay, so let me look at one thing here before I continue talking. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So really 3 days ago, I'll stop bearing the lead. About 3 days ago is when we heard that Waso left, right? So that Waso news, I mean, you can see it. You can see it expressed in a sharp decline in holders. But that rebounded pretty immediately thereafter. So if that hadn't happened, this would have been, I mean, you can just kind of take this little scoop and transpose it to the top right here. And I am very comfortable in saying that would have been where we ended the week with an extra, I don't know, 150 or so holders, right? So wouldn't have been a bad week, but alas, we did have some crazy news this weekend, and that's what happened. So, all right, so next one. So now if we look at over 100,000, again, similar story. In this case, we lost about 40, so about double what the prior value was. Again, not even that big of a deal. 40 people in the scheme of this thing. We're looking at what 40. I mean, I could look at this in the table, obviously the table, and figure out the actual number. But let's say this is 45,210, 205 or something. So 45,205. In the worst case scenario, which I think 100,000 is a pretty safe threshold for saying worst case scenario of like an actual dust account, and this magnitude of this change will decline as we increase that value. But anyway, so we'll say this was like 20, 40 people, we said. So equals 40 divided by that times 100. If I can type. So yeah, it's like 0.08% decrease, less than a tenth of a percent of a decline in a time when arguably the most dramatic news since the big start where all the devs left, right, and then the current iteration of Hoj started. This is by far the most dramatic thing that's ever happened, at least since I've been following the project. By far the most oh shit moment ever, and people expressed that concern, and that was made very clear to the marketing team and things like that. But I think the second biggest crisis was when the Unicrypt liquidity unlocked, and even that was there was something we could do about that, and things were done about that to sort of manage that risk, and we didn't really see that big of a drop. This is by far the most like existential threat kind of thing that happened, and then I think the core responded really well, and I think this thing, there's no reason why this stopped. This could have just continued going and shit the bed. That didn't happen, right? That stabilized and rebounded. I think that this little scoop right here, I give all credit to the fact that we had a very engaging AMA on Monday, and we had people that were there to answer questions and sort of assuage these fears. So yeah, credit to the people that run the ship. So all right, now continuing down. Now this is where, so I want you to look at the difference between these two graphs, right? So the first graph shows this decline where it's like, oh fuck, over at the over 100,000 dust. Well, this is what you would see if you were only looking at the number that was on if Etherscan or Hoj.report. So the reason I do these partially is just to make it very clear that if you see the arrow going down on Hoj.report, that's not necessarily true. Matter of fact, this isn't even the total story. So you'd have to remove the all the other chains except for Ethereum to get an accurate graph of what the Hoj.report would reflect. So, but anyway, so if you consider all 4 chains, if you count just all of the numbers of non-void holders per day, you can see that sharply increases. So really, what I'm trying to say is you really shouldn't trust what it shows on Hoj.report, just because, number one, they don't remove dust accounts, and number two, they only look at the Ethereum chain. And I've reached out to the dude who works on that site, and I think I've like got some well, I'm not gonna say I've made any progress. Actually, I talked to him once. He answered me once and never responded again. I think it'd be really nice to have Hoj.report reflect the actual holder count. Unfortunately, we can't change Etherscan. There's no reason for them to look at the other chains. They are concerned with Ethereum, and sometimes they're going to see the Ethereum number drop. We had a situation last week, and I encourage you to go back, or earlier this week, and I encourage you to go back in my sort of video history and look at my response. But basically, this guy saw that the holder count was dropping. There's a little red downward arrow on Etherscan, and at the time, I went back and I looked at the data from the time that he proposed that the holder count was dropping, and in fact, it had actually grown by like 300 holders. So you have to be holistic with these numbers, and right now, there's no reporting mechanism that is holistic at all. They aren't reporting all the chains at the same time. They aren't reporting these in the terms of dust accounts being removed. So I think that's a huge misstep, and hopefully something we can get resolved. All right, so now let's go up and look at the chain for chain, and then we'll finish it off with just to look at the raw numbers and a little review. But so here's chain for chains. So what this is, this graph only shows holders with 100 or more. So this is a graph of the 100 threshold dust accounts. So we see, I should have set this date range to be better, but anyways, we see the holder count drop on Ethereum. There's no other way about it, other way to say it. Like the number of, and this could be people completely selling out. In order to do that, you'd have to set the slippage to 0 and get very lucky that the thing went through. What this more likely represents is people selling down to below the 100,000 host threshold, right? But yeah, a lot of people left. But if this whole thing was the damage that the Wiser announcement or the WASO announcement produced, I think that's like super fucking bull. I mean, it's a really good sign. I think that's really good. So again, we'll look here. We see some coyotes outside. Holy shit. Wow. Sorry. There's a coyote outside my house. Or a pack of coyotes. Anyway, so we see 44,885 or something like that, down to 44,800. So like 80 people left over the Wiser announcement. I mean, that's like 0.1%, 0.16%, I guess, considering the math we did earlier. So, I mean, shit, that's like, I don't know how else to tell people that this is like, this is okay. Things are okay. And you can see here, BSC really didn't respond. It kept growing. Again, this is 100,000 or more wallets, and BSC didn't really, I mean, it took a little hit. Here, I guess, it stalled, but I don't see a place where the people that were buying on the BSC chain, maybe because, I think probably what this really represents is people buying on the BSC chain because they aren't, if you're buying on there, you're maybe not as invested in the community aspect of it, so maybe you aren't hearing about these things so much. Maybe your channels are a little bit, I don't know, like more third hand, and you're just not hearing about the creepy stuff. But anyway, it kept growing, so there you go. We went up even with the WASO announcement. So Phantom chain is really an anomaly. So this chain came about like a month before the BSC chain or something, and nobody uses it. I don't know why it exists. It's I don't know how you get to it. I guess that AnySwap, maybe people can get to it through that, but ultimately only 7 people had it, and then I guess the WASO announcement really fucked Phantom because it dropped by what 1/7, right? So down to 6. I think this is just a anomalous thing. Who cares? The Phantom chain is kind of never going to be the bread and butter, I don't think. But and then XDAI. So XDAI is unique. This is the first bridge that we had set up. This was part of the argument that people use for setting up a second bridge, and there was already a bridge. Who cares? But it should be clear to you that the BSC bridge and the XDAI bridge are two very different animals. And at one point we dipped to 0 on the XDAI bridge. Maybe these people were following the crazy controversy, but I think more likely this is just some kind of bot or something that just exists on the XDAI chain, and there's only 5 people writing bots for XDAI. It dropped down to 0 and then popped back up to 1. So anyway, so yeah, I think the takeaway here, if you wanna be the summarizer, is Ethereum chain holders took a major hit at the most critical time maybe in the history of Hoj. They took a hit of about roughly 80, if you're considering, if you eliminate the dust accounts, roughly 80 people left the project over that WASO. I want to say over that WASO announcement. I mean, I know it's maybe unfair, but that's what I would want to say here, because there's no other explanation for this drop. This is a very, very anomalous situation. I've never seen this before, and I've done several of these, not on video, but several of these things like this when I was working out how to make these scripts work, and this is just very bizarre, but really not that troubling. Because it's such a small proportion of the total count. And again, BSC grew. So if you want to take away, Ethereum shrunk by 0.16%, 1/16 of a percent, I guess, and BSC grew by fuck. Now I gotta do more math. BSC grew by, let's say, 350 to 410. So 350 divided by 410 times 100. I should do an equal sign because that's how spreadsheets work. And then it's 100 minus that. So it grew by 14%, the BSC chain, in the same time frame. So like, I gotta say, like, you're riding a wave here, and it's hard to say that nothing can stop this thing, but the thing that should have stopped it had very little effect. The crisis that should come with a core, like a founding core. I mean, this guy was like going to conferences. This guy was spending like thousands of dollars to go to conferences. This wasn't some like chump in the community. This was a major player, and he was an organizer and a community staple. And his leaving didn't really move the needle. I think that's important. The price is going to be reflected by how much Hoj is in a wallet. The community is going to be reflected by how many people are engaged, and I think that engagement's not going down. And building that strong user base is, as prices start to rise, is going to be very good for everyone involved. So anyway, that's the end of my pep talk here, but let's look at the table just for the hell of it because I made it and we should. So this is, I think this is the, what is this? Okay, this is the 100,000. Yeah. Okay, so here are the actual numbers. So Ethereum dropped by 0.2%. BSC raised by 14% from the start to the endpoint. XDAI dropped by 16%, or sorry, BSC dropped by 16%, and XDAI dropped by 400%. And this should be Phantom. Sorry, XDAI. So yeah, so Phantom dropped 16%. XDAI dropped 400%. Who gives a shit? These things are meaningless to the core concept. Okay, so, and then here again, over 10,000 raised by 0.04%. Over 10,000 dropped by 0.045, and you can see the rest. So, and if you look at the all, we raised by 0.2%, which is, again, I think, this is what you would be seeing if Hoj Report showed all the chains. This is what you'd be seeing if Hoj Report showed all the chains and was forward-thinking enough to remove the dust accounts. So, all right, so that's my spiel. I'm glad I got that out, and I didn't fuck up the microphone. Does anybody have any, even though there's only 2 people watching, does anybody have any questions or anything they want to look at or comments? I'm down to stick around for a bit. I'll monitor this chat. I'll give you guys 1 minute to respond if you're going to. This table, this entire spreadsheet will be in a Google Drive link in the description of this video. And at 11:26, I'll end the stream. So you got 10 seconds. Actually, I think there's a delay of more than 10 seconds. At 11:20, oh, there's somebody. Nah, man, you're good. Cool. All right. Well, then until next time, I hope that you don't freak out and you understand that things are on the right track still. Cool.